Has been quite some time since I've made a 10-minute chess opening video, but we're back, and today we're going to learn about the Evans Gambit, and I'm also going to add another weapon for you called the Nakhmanson Gambit, which has been on YouTube quite a bit. Jonathan Schranz and Levy Rozman made YouTube videos, shout out to them. Evans Gambit being Agadmator's favorite, so obviously you guys are familiar with that as well. And the gambit begins with the white pieces. You have to play e4. They have to play e5, which at the beginner and intermediate level happens 75 to 80% of the time. Knight f3, knight c6. Obviously, if they play something like d6 or, potentially go for knight f6, you need something different. But the point is that you play bishop c4 and they have to play bishop c5. After I show you about the Evans Gambit, I'm going to show you the Nakhmanson Gambit and other ideas with knight f6, but for now, we have bishop c5, and here you play b4. So, obviously a gambit is something where you sacrifice material, a pawn, two pawns, sometimes even more, and you get a big lead in development and big attacking chances. So, obviously, there's a couple of options here. There's opening theory, there's grandmaster games. Most people here are going to take this with the knight or the bishop. Let's just start out with the knight. The whole point of this is that your next moves are going to win tempi on whatever happens or happens to arrive on b4, and then you're going to play c3 and d4 and take full control of the center, castle, and get some attacking ideas. So the thing about this knight move is that it's basically a transposition, meaning it's something that can happen in a different move order to what usually will happen, which is they take with the bishop and then you get this position and now they move this bishop somewhere. So it's kind of the exact same thing. It's just that, they arrive there by taking with the knight first. And here I just recommend taking the full center. They can either take your pawn or potentially go back to b6. It's very tough to tell here what they're going to do. So I'm going to just give you ideas and you're going to fill in the blanks. So if they take, they can play bishop b6, bishop b4. If they check you, I recommend blocking with the knight and then trying to castle quickly and play fast in the center of the board with your pawns. So something, for example, like knight f6 castles. And here, if black were to castle, which this is already not a very theoretical position, you can play moves like d5, knight a5. If they go here, obviously they can't go the other way, you would just take. And you can just slide the bishop back and create an attacking possibility, or you can even play e5 right away. Because if they take on c4, you just take on c4, you have dominant central presence, and you'll use your space advantage to create some sort of attack. Now, the way you should memorize this gambit is essentially, have they taken the gambit or not, and where have they put their bishop? So what that means is, if most people play bishop takes, you play c3, the main line, according to theory here, is to play a5 or e7. So if you're playing somebody that has studied some games before, has an openings course on e4, e5, they will move the bishop to one of those two squares. So I should show you what to do, right? They move the bishop back to a5. You can castle, but you have other options. You can attack the center right away, and then when they take, you can castle. And this will bait people into taking again, potentially, and now you'll play queen b3, and this is the whole point. The whole point is that you're trying to get to f7 as fast as possible in this particular variation, but you've already castled your king, so you're pretty safe. Queen b3 normally isn't so strong because black can just play something like queen e7. For example, like here, you shouldn't really play queen b3 because I just defend my pawn, but it's different once you've gotten castled. So you have options, is what I'm saying. You can play d4, take, then castle, or you can just castle. And after knight f6, then you can play d4. And if they take, you can now push this pawn. Again, every move, you're trying to make something aggressive happen. You're trying to attack them to the highest extent that you can. Here, black has to know this move d5. This is the best move according to theory. And after takes, you take on g7, rook g8. There's like a very crazy position that can arise. I highly recommend you look at this not, with an engine, but at the same time with an openings database to see what gets played and what doesn't, because computer and the openings database isn't always linked up because the computer says one thing, but theory has said something else. So, but if they play something like knight e4, like they don't play d5, you can get a very big attack with rook e1, something like this, and there's even a variation, you sacrifice a rook, and you just play like bishop g5 and knight takes d4, and you have a gigantic lead in development, and you're basically winning. It's queen f3, queen h5, knight f5, and you're just putting unbelievable pressure on the position here. Play through some of these variations. You know, we only looked at bishop a5. If they move the bishop back to e7, again, it's more of the same. I mean, you play in the center, d6. Here, according to theory, the main line is knight a5. Now, I can almost guarantee you will never face that, because that is incredibly unnatural for a beginner to play bishop e7 and knight a5. This is theory. I mean, it's been played at the highest level. Check it out in openings database. I recommend just going back to e2 if you get this. And again, you're always looking to recapture either with the second pawn or in this case with the queen, looking to create something here. Main line here goes knight f6, attack the knight. Now black has to go back and hit your queen. And basically you rotate your queen over to g3. You could do that like this. You could do that like this. But you plant your queen on this square. It defends and it's attacking here. h4, h5 is an idea. And you're looking for a very, very quick attack. The bishop coming back to e7 is one of the most solid variations. The bishop hanging out on a5 is a little bit less solid, and it does give you nice and interesting attacking possibilities with a lot of different open lines. But if they don't accept the gambit, I don't know, they could play something like bishop b6. I actually don't think that you even have to play b5. You can make them accept the gambit by playing a4, threatening to trap their bishop, and then if they play knight b4, you get basically all of the same. You play a5, c3, and d4, and it's all the same, except this pawn is out here, and they will have some difficulty finding a home for the dark squared bishop. But that's the point. You're giving up the b pawn for very, very quick attacking opportunities, which normally you wouldn't get in standard e4, e5 positions. Now, I did say I would give you a bonus, right? I did say I would give you a bonus. So the variation here with knight f3 against knight f6, if you do face knight f6, aka the Petrov, I highly recommend you take a look at d4 here. This is called the Steinitz Attack. Super, super aggressive, gets a lot of people out of theory. They can't take because you just push. And if you haven't watched the e4 rating climb, I did a video series where I only played e4 against some of my subscribers to test and test the lines and see what they're playing and give you some opening ideas. So I've been playing d4 a lot. You can take this pawn, but then you run the risk of entering a Stafford Gambit. So you need to know what you're doing. It's very dangerous, or just the Petrov main lines. And if you get this, bishop c4, knight f6, this is my favorite part of the video. You can play the fried liver. You can go for the cheese, but against the player who knows what they're doing with d5 takes, something like knight a5, you obviously will not be getting as big of an advantage. So what I recommend is you play d4. Very much in the style of the Evans Gambit, just playing in the center. d4 now, most people here will take. Here I recommend castling, so giving up the second pawn. This is the Nakhmanson Gambit. And after knight takes e4, which pretty much is the only move, otherwise you just push this pawn forward and take this pawn back. You play the absolutely ridiculous looking knight to c3. Knight c3 is an insane move. It's actually crazy. And black has to basically play only computer theory here to survive and ultimately be winning. Like, the Nakhmanson Gambit is very good with perfect play. The thing is that you very rarely are actually going to get perfect play on the board. And if you do, you're most likely playing a cheater. That's actually just straight up the case. So the most fun variation here is d takes c3 and the beautiful bishop takes f7. And if king takes f7, queen d5, black has to play king f6. Black has to play king f6. And you take back on e4 with some sort of big attack, queen e4, and now black has to play bishop e7. So that bishop g5 is not a threat to the queen anymore. Again, if someone plays like this against you, I would be extremely suspicious, which is one of the reasons why the Nakhmanson Gambit is so vicious. It's just, you can't refute it with natural play. And oftentimes black will, for example, not play king f6, will play king e8 and just end up in a losing position because of something like rook e1, rook e4, and there's just no way to prevent this demolition on the king. So if you don't get the opportunity to play an Evans Gambit, the whole point of this video is to give you a repertoire with knight f3 and bishop c4. That's the whole point, I should say, of playing like this, playing like an aggressive style with the Evans Gambit with c3, d4, castles, is because you have to understand e4, e5 players will get this position on the board 95% of the time. They will get this position on the board maybe 70, 80% of the time if someone doesn't play a 4 knights. The Evans Gambit takes all of that down to like 5%. Maybe 5%, 2% of their games become the Evans Gambit, and they will have no idea what to do. That's the whole point of playing a Gambit repertoire, and this is not a garbage Gambit by any stretch of the imagination. It's been played by Carlsen, Caruana, a lot of really strong players, MVL, just in the past calendar year alone. So, give it a shot. If you'd like, you can link a game that you play in the Evans Gambit, successfully or unsuccessfully, in the comments. Whatever chess website you play on, and I'll browse around and try to give you a little bit of feedback. If you have any questions, you can also help each other out. Try to keep the comments positive. I know I've had a joke where I've been pinning, some hate comments, but I want to move on from that. I really want to actually have see the best of my community, because so many of you out there are demonstrating immense amounts of support, and I couldn't thank you enough. So hopefully this was good. Stay tuned for more E4 climb videos and others, and check out what's over there. That's all. Take care.